Hi, sweeties. How are you doing? Welcome tonight. I say thank you so much for the support. Hope you all are doing great. So I came across a video where a black woman was talking about the weaponizing of the fragility of white people. And then that also reminds me about white women, how they have played major roles when it comes to incarceration of people that by black men and all that. And one thing I have noticed from the history to this very moment is that they actually have a particular way that they operate. And one thing with them is that that fragility is something that they do not take them for granted, especially when they start crying. Once they start crying, that is a very huge problem. And their tears are worth more than any other person's life. Now, why I keep referencing back to the history is because majority of the things that are still happening are still something you can trace back to from the history. And one thing with some people is that when you do not know your history, you are bound to repeat it. Now, why is it that sometimes when you are probably striking a conversation with them and all that, maybe a black person or maybe there is an argument, a black man or a white, let's say a black man and a white woman, or sometimes a white woman and a black woman, they start raising their voices, and the next thing you hear is that you see them do is cry. Once they start crying, you are automatically the one at wrong. It takes only grace for people to see that you are at wrong, and maybe she is putting up a show because nobody ever believed their show. And it is because nobody believed their show, they don't believe their own show. That's why majority of my people go through some certain things. Let's get into the
Hysteria has been studied for centuries, okay? And it originally began with the Greeks. And they believed that hysteria was a disease of the uterus or a disease of the womb. Essentially, only women could suffer from hysteria. The cure, they needed to have intercourse with the man. Odd, I know, crazy, absolutely. Fast forward. Now you have hysteria being studied as a reason for us to be able to do the Salem witch trials. Women are indeed hysterical. And in order for us to be able to get them under control, we have to be able to cater towards the softer side of them. You fast forward, and then we as a scientific community evolve to then believe and include the possibility that men can also suffer from hysteria. However, hysteria still broadly is something that only women suffer for. Now, when you think about hysteria and the definition and application of hysteria, you come to the realization that we no longer utilize hysteria as a reason for uncanny attitudes towards specific things, okay? Or a reason to identify someone as being fragile. Instead, we have rebranded this. And by we, I mean white people have rebranded hysteria and made it white fragility. Follow me, there's somewhere that I'm going. So when you're talking about white fragility, there is a book that is actually written about this. Robin DiAngelo is the author, and she is somebody that has been putting on conferences and conversations about racial, sociological interactions for over 2 decades. She defines white fragility as the defensive responses, the full range of emotions that white people feel when it comes down to their understanding of race being questioned and their implication of participation in racism or in white supremacy. Okay. Now, fragility is something that is weaponized, and it is also something that white people partake in order to victimize themselves to be able to skirt responsibility. What do I mean? Well, when it comes down to the unarmed killing, the killing of unarmed people of color, the main defense that's presented is fear. So this particular person, who is a trained person, who also has a weapon, says that they see a person who is not armed and they are therefore fearful. Okay. Now, Tori, how does fragility go into this? Because white people have been deemed as fragile in comparison to specifically black people, it allows for there to be a relatability to someone being afraid of the mere sight of a black person, as opposed to them seeing and developing a sense of fear when it comes down to them seeing a white person that is armed. Not only that, it also creates this notion of relatability. Okay. Now, it's very interesting the way that the sociology of white people work. White people are the only ethnic group that is able to partake in being a part of a collective while also identifying individualistically. Okay. And why is this a problem? It is a problem because data and statistics show that the majority of those people responsible for mass shootings, mass unalivings, grape, as well as being serial killers, is one demographic of people. That is, in fact, white people. However, they have also been able to partake in this narrative that causes the general public to not be afraid of this demographic every single time that they see them. Whereas on the flip side, you have those that are a part of the minority culture that when seen, they are immediately identified by their stereotypes of the whole. Why is this a problem? It's a problem because when you're in a situation like we are right now, where you have an administration that is targeting a marginalized group of people, you find that particularly white people say things like, I can't imagine, insert whatever the atrocity is or dealing with whatever the atrocity is. This is indeed a vestige of white fragility. And this is why it's not helpful. It's not helpful because inadvertently, as a white person, you have just caused yourself to not be able to identify with a general human experience. And therefore, when you have someone like Trump, who says that he's going to do all of these things to a marginalized group of people, you immediately remove yourself subconsciously, sometimes consciously, from the possibility of these outcomes affecting you. Furthermore, you also have this type of fragility being weaponized in that there is a withholding of information from white people and a rebranding of atrocities and stigmas to be able to cater to their sensibilities and their sensitivities. Tori, what do you mean? Well, even here on this app, there are certain words that you are not able to say, even though that is exactly what it is. And research shows that for children, when you teach them their anatomical body parts, if you use pseudonames instead of the actual name, those children are more susceptible to those who target them to take advantage of them because of the mere fact that you do not call a spade a spade. And so now what you currently have is you have this current platform that has a new way of being able to censor information. And this new way of censoring information that they have is that they will restrict the reach of videos that seem to be too emotionally heavy and causes discomfort. Now, Robin DiAngelo points out one of the ways that white people try to get away from white fragility is to get out of an uneasy situation. This current administration has produced a climate of uneasy situation. And all of the comments that I have seen and the videos that I have been seeing circulating shows a particular dynamic of people that is searching for a way out to get out of this uncomfortable area. If you are a person of color, if you are a Black person, you are used to being uncomfortable on a daily basis. And so this is why you have the 92% that is able to sit in this type of uncomfortability, because we are used to doing it. Now, I want white people to be able to understand that you are currently being targeted because you do not like to be uncomfortable. This is something that Donald Trump is aware of. And the way that white people adapt to be able to withstand discomfort is to either move from it or they insulate themselves in a way that causes them to find comfort within the discomfort. So yes, there are people within the establishment, such as the legislature and such as the judiciary, that knows that a lot of these things are wrong. But they are not going to stand up because they are not used to having to survive underneath the pressure that will persist in order for them to fight back. And this is very important. Because while there are people that are on this app that are trying to give insight and information to be able to give hope, but also to be able to identify the ways that we are being divided and being tricked, there is a censorship that is occurring to insulate the knowledge of white people by essentially saying you are too fragile to handle the truth. May I encourage you to do the work necessary to learn how to withstand in discomfort, because we are in an uncomfortable place, but also do the work necessary to create tougher skin so that when you do see marginalized group of people enduring undue hardship, you look at them and you say, imagine if I went through that, as opposed to, I could never imagine.
White fragility. We got to talk about white fragility because there's, butthurt people that come at you defending white supremacy or defending the patriarchy, who are not willing to do the work or have not done the work to unlearn their social conditioning. These feelings center their uncomfortable with the conversation rather than moving things forward. And just like if you're working with people who have experienced trauma, you would support them to heal from that trauma. People who are suffering from fragility need to sit with these fragile, uncomfortable, angry feelings and go through it, learn, question your social conditioning and question why you believe what you believe, because we are literally living in a white supremacist society embedded with patriarchy, and it is time for a change. And if you are ready to do this work, click the link in my Instagram bio, and I got resources that can help you if you're a teacher, if you're a parent, if you're a youth worker, and they're all low cost. So yeah, do the work. Let's unlearn our conditioning and change society. Feeling guilty about racism? That's totally normal. But that guilt can trap us. It makes the conversation about us, not about the harm that's being done. Our guilt might feel like awareness, but too often that guilt becomes a shield. I feel bad, so I must be good. It just doesn't change anything. And it keeps us stuck in self-focus. Here's how I move from guilt to responsibility. What can I learn? What can I do next? Guilt just centers our feelings, whereas accountability shifts our actions. I'm the anti-racist mum, and I teach white people how we can do better. If you're ready to become proactively anti-racist, click the link in my bio for resources and ways I can support you on this journey. And my next video will be all about how we can use our privilege for good and change. Why should white people be the ones responsible for ending racism? I keep getting asked this question. Well, here's the answer. White people built the systems that created racism. White people benefit from racism. And racism is upheld, often silently, by us, white people, through white norms, white comfort, and white institutions. So if you're white like me, this isn't about guilt. It's about being responsible. We didn't create the system, but we are in it. And if we remain silent, we protect it. I'm not asking you to feel bad for being white. I'm asking you to start being honest about what your whiteness has protected you from and what that protection has cost others. Accountability doesn't mean taking the blame for everything. It means choosing no longer to be complicit, because the people being harmed the most by racism did not create it, and they shouldn't be the only ones fighting to dismantle it. As we benefit from this system, we have to play a role in dismantling it. So don't take this as an attack, take it as an invitation to show up. It isn't about shame. It's about integrity. It's about using our voice, our influence, and our presence to stop letting racism pass unchallenged. I'm the anti-racist mum, and if you're ready to join me on this journey of uniting and unlearning our social conditioning to create safer communities for all children and young people to thrive, click the link in my bio for some low-cost resources that will help you get started. And follow
Now,
me.
big shout out to Tori. She does really amazingly great with these particular topics. So, when she said that they are always fearful, she's always then weaponizing their fragility when it comes to people that look like me. And I keep asking myself, why do they continue doing this? Because if you check from the beginning of history to this very moment, you definitely will find that there is a particular way majority of the things that has happened to people that look like me happen. It's like there is a particular mode that they have already made out in order to work against people that look like me. I don't know if you have noticed that, but now let's talk about this. I know that majority of the time when they are probably arguing with someone that look like me, they might start crying. That people will start asking what is going on. It is just a minor argument. They are now making it look like you are the one, like probably trying to unalive them. And from that crying, trust me, it might actually harm whoever they are doing that with it, especially when it comes to Black men. Yes. Black men, it's just quite unfortunate that majority of them are still not ready to learn. Some of them do not understand their history, but I'll leave it to them because some of them will tell you that they found love. And majority of the love they found end up, their preference end up also sending them to their early grave. But I am going to leave it at this, right? Majority of the time, it has always been Black men that go through it because when they lie, probably gripping and all that, you know how they say that a white woman's tears is, is 100,000 times than any person of color, or Black people's life. Yes, you heard me right. Because when something like this happens, that is the beginning of your problem. And so, because sometimes I am like, how are they telling me you all have lived with Black people all your lives? You all have lived with Black people all your lives. Why? What is it about people that look like me that scare you? What is it that scare you, that make you very uncomfortable, that sometimes you put up show just to get them in problem? And that also remind me about something that happened 2 years ago about a nurse that tried to put up a show with I think that was like a scooter, right? With a Black boy, a Black young boy. And she started creating show out of nothing. And people started that actually made way for 2-3 weeks. And a lot of Black people were very mad. Why were they mad? They were mad because they already know their experiences with this kind of people and how it was handled, how majority of them. There are so many Black men that have been incarcerated or probably somewhere that they will never come out, probably because there was tears or how they weaponize their fragility against you. And if you think I am lying, go and Google it. You definitely will understand what I am saying. Or if you think that I am making it up, go and ask elderly Black people, not just elderly. Tori is young. Because if I say elderly to look like it, go and look for old. Is Tori not young? Tori is very young. There are so many young Black, if you don't want to ask me, there are so many. JJ is 21 years. There are so many of them out there that will tell you the real deal. Because maybe some people say I am always making it up. It looks like I go and hire people to come and act for me. When they are done acting for me, I'll put it on my channel. I don't do that. We don't arrange here. All these things you are saying are the things happening. They are the things people that look like me are going through. Majority of you know it, but you are just jealous. Some of you are just jealous. Or should I say jealous? Maybe not jealous. Some of you do not want to accept it. It is hard for you to accept. Some of you are mad. Why? Because it is not a Black person saying it. Because I see some of your comments. So why are you talking about our history? Why are you talking about us? I love the fact that I learned Because if I did not learn it, I probably would still be in the dark. And I will also encourage people to also learn African culture. It will be more powerful, especially when you are in America or somewhere talking about African history or the things going on in Africa. Nobody will think of arresting you because they won't see you. Nobody will think of probably wanting to harm you because they won't see you. So yeah, all these things are the things people that look like me are going through, the things that they weaponize against people that look like me. So it is happening. So I am going to urge every one of you to continue to stay very careful, be wary of them. Because one thing I will never forget the story, the history that I have learned how they operated. Because if I forget the history, it means I will repeat it. Bye for now.